Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome 2017, Nadya's Identity Files, and goodbye 2016. For me, last year was packed with new realizations, learning experiences, and accomplishments. I hope it was for you as well. I know in the last few days of 2016, we heard a lot about how 2016 was a horrible year. It was a year of endings. 2016 took so many great people away from us, on and on. And it's true, we did lose a lot of wonderful people in 2016, from David Bowie to Prince to Alexis Arquette to most recently Carrie Fisher. So it was a really rough year for celebrity loss. But then again, being so saturated in social media and new media, you have to wonder, was it really a year that experienced more loss than usual, or did it just seem that way based on our current perceptions and the way that we're so immersed in the media? But being a big astrology nut myself, I've been thinking about how a lot of people have been calling 2016 a year of ending. And as it turns out, in terms of numerology, 2016 is actually considered marking the end. In my case, though, perhaps in yours too, and I hope so, 2016 marked many new beginnings in tandem with the close of various chapters. And I really think that's quite often how things work. Things end, things begin, things begin, things end. There's always some level of intertwining of the beginning and the end. So I was thinking even deeper about how I wonder if a year could have an identity. Is it possible for a year to have an identity? Well, because people are going on and on and on about 2016 being the end year, and I started going back and looking at the numerology and thinking how 2016 is the end, I found some really interesting things that apparently 2016 adds up to 9, right? So you have 2, 1, and 6. And so it's the last year of a 9-year cycle that began with 2008. It's also marking the 13th year in the Mayan dream spell calendar. And I was like, what's a dream spell calendar? Obviously, I was getting really into this astrological research here. I know about the Mayan calendar, but I wasn't really sure about a dream spell calendar. Anyway, that cycles all the way back to 2004. So a lot of people who are into this stuff, or even if you're not, now you can be, are thinking like, what was going on in 2004? What was going in 2008? And then finally 2016 marking the last chapter. So all of that said, 2017 is a brand new year. It's a year of new beginnings. Even if it wasn't a special year or a new year in these two new astrological cycles, it would still be a time for people to get in on their New Year's resolutions and start thinking about ways to clear out the negative and bring in out with the old and in with the new, as they say. So again, 2017 is an especially powerful year to let go of emotional baggage, dead-end jobs, and even identities that no longer serve you. Today, speaking of awesome identities, I have 2 guests who regularly embrace reinvention regardless of the year. Jourdan Rystrom and MC Pan are both creative spirits and let nothing at all hold them in a box. In addition to both being creative, soulfully driven entrepreneurs, these 2 amazing people self-identify as pansexual. And pansexuality, you don't hear a lot about it, but it's absolutely fascinating. Pansexuality involves the attraction to any sex or gender without any bounds or restrictions. Jourdan is a soulful singer-songwriter, YouTube creator, film producer, energy healer, and manager of a holistic wellness spa in Brentwood. Along with Nadya's Identity Files guest and super creative Brad Etter. Brad came on my show probably, I guess, mid-October. Jourdan produced a really amazing film entitled Me Plus You, and that film was showcased at Cannes and can actually be best described as a metaphysical drama that explores personal identity, gender, and sexuality. Really, really great film. Check it out. And together, Brad and Jourdan also produce conscious comedy for YouTube under the moniker Bowjour. That's Bowjour. My second guest is equally fascinating. MC Pan is a writer, thinker, poet, filmmaker, and musician known for producing what can best be categorized as hip-hop yoga. I didn't even know there was such a thing until I found MC and was like so into it. Really, really cool stuff. Pan rejects restrictions on gender and sexuality and infuses a special level of openness in all that she does, especially in her art. So I'm looking forward to exploring the relationship between Jourdan's and Pan's extensive creative resumes and pansexual identities. We'll be right back. Hello, and welcome back to Nadya's Identity Files after that inordinate break. 5-minute break. And thank you, Jourdan, for being here with me today.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We're looking out to Hollywood Boulevard. Not too much people watching right now, but that is subject to change at any time, right? So I want to talk to you about your super exciting journey and all of the different professional identities that you wear, and also your pansexuality and how there's like an intersection between all of that, which is really cool. In terms of all of the things that you're doing, do you consider yourself to be in the pursuit of multiple paths in tandem, or does everything kind of connect to one journey?
Yeah. That's a great question, first of all. A lot of people ask me that because they're like, you do so many things,
Right.
What's your main thing?
Yeah.
And for me, really the answer is that, yes, it does all connect. For me, the way that I live life is to help inspire others. And no matter which prism, I think that we all are, we're this beautiful diamond, and we're prismatic. We're not just one-sided, So I have these prisms, music, film, art, drawing. I do calligraphy. I do crystal healing. Like all of
calligraphy is hard.
It's fun. I love it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so this prism, it's like whichever way it's going to shine, that's what I'm going to focus on at that moment, because if you truly live in the now moment, I feel like everybody is so multi-talented, and it's just taking hold of the talent that you have in that moment and letting it flow through you.
That's amazing. Why do you think people have so much fear in being able to embrace multiple pursuits at once?
I think there's a lot of fear just because of how we're programmed. As a society, we're programmed to do one thing, to work 9 to 5, to make, bring home bread for the family, and women to take care of the house. And this is stuff that has been hundreds and hundreds of years programmed into our hearts. And even now, living as a young woman in Hollywood, where it's very liberal, I'm still being, I get messages from people back home, you shouldn't be doing that. That's selfish. Stuff like that, where I refuse to go into a mold that has been pre-planned for me.
Yep. Screw the molds. I'm very anti-mold. We have to, we're like clay. We should allow ourselves to be as malleable as possible and continue molding and reshaping ourselves and our journeys.
Totally.
That's really the best way to go. And I respect you so much for being so authentic and free in that way.
We try, we're all human, we all have an ego and we have our true self. And sometimes there's anxiety and perfectionism and all those things. Nobody's perfect, but that's what makes us so beautiful.
Exactly. And speaking of authenticity and beauty, I think we should check out one of your songs. Jourdan is a very talented singer and songwriter. So let's take a look at your music video, What's Left to Say, shall we?
All right.
This ain't a circus or a game. Since we met, they've been the same. And I'm sick of spinning circles. One step forward, 2 steps back, hanging on to what we had. Let's get off this crazy carousel. And it's hard to imagine letting this go, letting you go. And it's hard to remember a day without you. But it is what it is. I've given all that I can give. Run through hoops, told the truth, bent over backwards all for you. Come to peace with the fact that it's over. I'm okay. Hey babe, it's not your fault or mine. We've run our course and had our time. I guess we're not meant to be. I never thought that this could end. I'm sorry, but I can't pretend this is something we can fix. And it's hard to imagine letting this go, letting you go. And it's hard to remember a day without you.
Well, my goodness, isn't that just so pretty?
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. No, but really, like, that's a beautiful song, and I understand it actually made it in the Bold and the Beautiful.
Yeah, it was
And
just
it's a huge
miraculously
hit.
placed, licensed on that show, and it's worldwide. So I have fans from all over the world, messaging me saying how my music has helped change their lives, and that is like the reason I do it.
Right.
To hear those
Yeah.
messages.
Hearing the impact that you're making just from doing something
Yeah.
that you absolutely love and that feeds
Totally.
your soul, and then
Totally.
knowing that that's feeding other people's souls too.
And it's so great because everything that I do in life, whatever facet it is, I'll get a message from someone saying, that really changed me, or that really helped me get over my ex, or that really,
Right.
my 4-year-old daughter dances to your song and sings it every morning for breakfast.
Oh, that's so cute.
Like that's, you never think you're inspiring someone until you get that message, and then
Right.
it makes everything so worth
and you're
it.
like, oh, I mean, probably sometimes we're questioning like why we're doing what we're doing, and then something like that, it comes in your inbox.
Totally.
And you're like, oh
Like,
yeah,
that's why.
I'm on this
That's
path.
why it's for the greater good. It's for the,
Right? Well, keep doing it. Keep doing it. So,
Thank you.
I really want to talk a bit about your pansexuality, which
Mhm.
is fascinating to me. I identify as bisexual, although sometimes I think that I kind of veer into pansexuality
Mhm.
myself.
Mhm.
So, I mean, because you're so free professionally,
Mhm.
is there a relationship between the evolution of your, I guess, professional identities and selves, and how you've decided to self-identify as a
Mhm.
pansexual?
Yeah, I've always been allowed to be myself, which I think is very important. It's important in my growth and my journey. My story is that from a young age I was allowed to be a singer, to be an actress, to be a star. I was nobody tried to dim my light, especially my parents. I mean, maybe
great.
others, but not
Right.
my growth. My parents always said, be whatever you want to be, and we support you. So because of that, I think that I can be much more open with myself when I know others haven't had that same experience, and I
Right.
empathize with that. But every step that I've taken in my life is like always for a reason, and I truly, truly believe that everything happens for a reason. And I look back, at 1 year, 2 years, 3 years ago, at mistakes that I had made at the time, and I realize now how it's brought me to where I'm supposed to be. And I actually didn't even know about the word pansexual until about 6 months ago.
Oh, really?
And when I heard, I've never identified as just straight or just gay or just bisexual. I mean, that's what I would put on my dating profiles.
Right.
But that's all I could choose. I mean, it's like if they had an other category, I would probably choose other because, again, I don't really look at gender. Like when I see you, I don't see your gender.
Right.
That's a label to me. Like I see your soul. And
Exactly.
and I also. It's funny, we were talking in the back here, me and Pan, and we were saying that, on dating sites, I don't even like going on there because you're only looking at the person's face.
That's actually part of our round table. Ooh,
Yeah,
I can't.
yeah,
wait to
we'll
hear
get
more
into that
about
later.
that.
But
Yeah,
I really
that's
truly,
true.
I resonate with the person's soul, and that is what I love about someone, and I love everyone, but not necessarily sexually, but I truly. I love based on what's
Right.
in here. I based on the fact that you are human, you are beautiful, and it doesn't matter what's in your pants.
You have an open heart.
Yeah, exactly.
And an open mind.
Exactly.
And, it goes back to what you and I were just talking about in terms of the impositions that society places on us. And,
Totally.
in all types of different contexts, including gender and sexuality.
Yeah.
Among many, 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 many other
Yeah.
things. I mean, there's constant boxes that, we're trying to be thrust in. You
Totally.
were just in Europe.
Yeah, I was just
So,
in Europe
I mean,
with my
things-
boyfriend, and we have an amazing relationship where he's more of the feminine spirit and I'm more of the masculine spirit, and and he wants to be like a stay-at-home dad, and I want to travel the world singing, you know, so it's like,
Right.
that's
There
all
you go.
changed, you know, I'm
Keeper.
doing the male role, and he wants to do
Right.
the female role, but
The
really,
typical.
you know, what is
Right.
typical, what is, you know,
Right.
is
What are these
love?
roles? It's like, you know, you're just figuring out what works for your dynamic and
Exactly.
moving forward in that canon. It's
Exactly.
like, you know, who cares?
Yeah, and it's who are you? Who do you resonate with? You know, and then you can stack all those labels on top of you if you want. But I am just I'm not even Jourdan. I'm a soul. You
Yeah.
know, that's Jordan's another label. That's
Jordan's
just a name.
just a name. Exactly.
So.
You like it. And it
Yeah,
fits you.
I love it.
Hey.
It's super unique.
So, I mean, you mentioned your parents.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to talk a little bit about how you've become so open. And, like,
Mm-hmm.
who do you attribute this extreme fluidity to?
Well, of course, my mom and my dad, but especially my father. He was a musician and kind of a little bit famous back in Minnesota. He would play all these coffee shops and venues and stuff. And I grew up right next to him. You know, at 3 years old, singing harmonies at Caribou Coffee, and you know, just always performing. And my dad always instilled in me this love for art and music and just being
Right.
exactly who I am. And we also have a like very spiritual connection where even as a child I remember we could just look in each other's eyes and I would know what he was saying,
Right.
and he would
You
know
have,
what I
like,
was saying.
An
Yeah.
intuition.
Yeah.
That was, like, very unique to you. You have a very strong bond.
Definitely, yeah.
Obviously.
And he when I was 13 he had an accident and had an anoxic brain injury which put him into like a catatonic vegetative state, so he's actually been in that state since I was 13.
Oh, my God.
But again, everything happens for a reason, and if because that happened and because I lost like my father or who he was, I was able to grow into
Right.
the spirit that I am now. And again, we can still communicate in the spiritual realm.
You always have that connection, which is beautiful. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing
of
that.
course.
Can you talk a little bit about your film, Me and You? Is it Me
Yeah.
plus you or Me and You?
It's me and you.
Okay.
Me and you.
Because I'm like, there's a plus. There's an and. I did this with Brad, too,
Yeah,
when he
yeah.
was on my show.
I know. He's like, it's me and you. If someone says you and me, he's like, that is wrong. That is wrong.
I love it.
But
So that film is super explorative, in many areas, and gender in the sense of
Yeah.
like the way we self-identify, how I guess the evolution of self.
yeah.
How could you connect that to your pansexuality?
Totally. Well, while producing the film, you know, which was written and directed by my best friend Brad Etter, we kind of work in tandem as this awesome team, you know, of co-creators to bring, you know, light to these
Right.
to the darkness of the sexual identity. And doing this film was so beautiful because when we cast the lead character, Pierce Pope, we didn't know if he was a girl or a boy.
Wow.
He's an angelic cherub child. I mean, you'll see
Adorable.
if you
Oh, yeah, I
watch
watched
this film.
it.
Yeah.
Adorable.
But at the beginning, actually, a lot of people thought it was a little girl.
Oh, really?
And that's
Wow.
kind of what we were going for. Because, again, why does it matter what the gender
Right.
of the child
It's the
is?
soul.
They're trying to discover who they truly are. And then the only reason that the child gets angry and grows up mad and separates from himself is because of society and how society has said that this is wrong. You can't draw girls. You can't play with Barbies if you're a boy. You know, it's...
Right. All of these arbitrary
Why?
restrictions that it's just...
Why? I just don't get it. So we, you know, we explore through film these concepts, and it's really magical.
It's beautiful. And you have some really other great projects in the works too, right?
Yeah, I do.
Doesn't one involve an elevator?
Yes,
Or-
Elevator is our next film that's in
Yeah,
pre-production.
I saw something.
Really excited about that. Also, I have an album coming out. I'm going to be doing a Kickstarter for it soon. It'll be coming out in the fall. And I am releasing a new song next month called Dead Sober. And that explores on my sobriety, which I'm
Nice.
over 1 year sober now. And
Congratulations.
that's a whole nother story for another day. But
Hey, you can bring you back.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. And obviously, we're going to have a round table with you and Pan where we can dig into these issues a little more deeply, especially with the dating app stuff.
Yeah, let's do it.
That's a big conversation. Hello, and welcome back to Nadya's Identity Files. I just had a really fast countdown. I was like, what's going on? I welcome MC Pan.
Thank you
so much for being here with me today to talk about pansexuality and your music and all of your different identities. Are you excited to be here?
I'm so excited. Thank you so much for having me. I'm
You're
just
so
like
welcome.
butterflies.
Oh, you're adorable. I love your turban, by the way.
Thank you.
Like, I wish I could have the skill to actually make one, like just get a sheet. And,
They say there's no wrong way to tie a turban.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, you might have to teach me how to do that, like,
Right.
post episode. So you do a lot of really cool stuff. You're a self-described writer, thinker, poet, filmmaker, musician, singer, rapper, shaman, and liberator. And I think you also had said that you're a dictator, and I was like,
Yeah, that's one of them.
And you also happen to be a gender-bending pansexual. You're a very
This is
open,
true.
authentic human being. Were you always this multifaceted?
Yes, I always have been ever since I was a little kid. So it's like, this is just always kind of like how I've been. And it just like, I don't know. I guess it's just my journey is discovering more of like what is parts of me from the world and just
Right.
incorporating them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Where did it
Okay.
all begin?
Maybe when I popped out of the womb.
Well, we could go that far back, but we only have 10 minutes.
Right?
So,
Well,
yeah.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I was really raised by like my mom and my sister, like for the first like part of my life, because my dad was like always working
Right.
and like never home. So I got a lot of nurturing from the females like in my family. So I think that had a lot to do with developing like my feminine essence and like just the way that I connect with people and like with God in like a more feminine way.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I guess that's just been my path, is just like connecting with God in this way and just like trusting that I'll be like guided along
Right.
the path. Yeah.
Is it going well so far?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a fun
Wow.
adventure. It's just I enjoy the ride.
That's beautiful. I love how authentic and open you are. And your music really delves into some interesting topics. It's really good beats.
Oh,
It's
thank
like
you.
yoga, hip hop. I never even heard of that genre until I checked you out. I'm like, dang, this is on point.
It's like a new thing for me, But I mean, always my music has always been like my spiritual outlet.
Right.
So I describe my spiritual journey in my music. So that's pretty much what it is like whatever I'm studying or like getting in my spiritual life or like my occult pursuits or whatever.
Right.
It just all digests and comes out in the music.
Well, let's check out some of your music. Let's look at your you did this 2 days ago, you said?
Yeah.
Sacred Mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
You are now listening to DJ Space Invader.
I'm the divine hermaphrodite. Sometimes my light shines a little bright. I embrace the night and become the shadows at your campsite. I can excite your finite, connect you intimately with the infinite. We sing on it together, we ignite. Let's choose to unite. My eyes show you your soul. Know the roles you choose to play, the flirtation you display. We live on the edges of gray. I slay when you drift astray on your birthday. Silently disobey and decide to seduce anyway. I am your clay, mold me into me, I'll mold you into you. Let our higher selves free and grasp the last of what is true. We are those sacred mirrors. See your figure, see your lady killer. See the river of your triggers, feel in me. What makes you shiver? I'm the giver.
Wow. Check you out.
Thank
Sacred
you.
Mirrors. That's really cool. I had no idea that you did that just 2 days ago because I didn't look, as I mentioned to you, I wasn't looking at the date.
Yeah,
video.
Sometimes projects come to me super quick. Like I just connect, like with all the yoga and meditation that I do, like I just connect directly to source and like download stuff. Like that's how my creativity works. I pretty much just like channel it.
Right.
Which is what comes through the feminine energy.
So when you're saying you're downloading stuff, is that kind of like akin to downloading energy that you're feeling?
Exactly. So like when we connect to like our higher selves, which is like our ascended selves, it's like they're like your perfected state, your greatest version. So when it comes to like creativity or whatever, if you connect to your higher self, you can like receive that supreme like work or like song or movie or whatever you're creating. Just
you're making me want to get back into meditation, like really bad. I've been so bad at it. I might need you to help me out
every day. Every day.
So I want to talk some more about your music. Your most recent album is entitled Rapstronaut. Yeah,
that's
awesome.
The one I just put out. I actually released it on September 11th.
Is that intentional?
2016. Yeah. I don't know. I always pick certain days, but like 11 is like one of the soul numbers, and also like 9 is a number too, but it also like corresponds to something else. But I don't know. I like to keep like remind people of a lot of things in one thing.
Right. So it's like you're kind of feeding off certain vibrations in the air based off, that day, and of course other variables with numbers.
So even if it like catches their eye or something, it's like I always put like hidden things in, because sometimes people don't look at like the release date of things.
Yeah, they don't really think
it's
about
like
that.
I always like predetermine.
That's cool. I love it. So I want to talk a little bit about your musical and spiritual journey as it connects to your sexual and gender fluidity.
Okay.
So I'd love to hear more about how that is working for you, like how it's evolved.
Okay. Well, where to start? Because it's like multifaceted, you know? But like my relationship with the divine and with God is like a sexual relationship. And, like, I know for a lot of people that sounds weird, because it's like, well, how can you have a sexual relationship with, like, this entity or spirit, something that you can't even see? But, like, when people are praying or meditating, like, you feel that energy, coming down into your channels, and, like, it's sexual energy,
it's intense.
Yeah, so like when I like connect directly to source, like, and I'm downloading this, it's like an orgasmic experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very intense.
And so with the whole pansexuality thing, because like I see the divine and the divinity in all people. So like that's why, like Jourdan said, I don't see people's gender. When I look at them, I see their soul and their essence, and within everyone they have the masculine energy and the feminine energy, so technically
we all have both.
Everyone's the same gender technically, in spirit. It's just some people have more of one energy, the masculine energy, or the feminine energy. So that's why, like, we gravitate toward people who, like, balance us out in certain things. And to me, it's all, like, a spiritual thing. I rely on my intuition and, like, feeling out the electromagnetic energy and, like, how my aura connects with theirs. So it's always, like, my sexuality is, like, connected inextricably to my spiritual journey as well.
I love that. So obviously spirituality has really at least in your mind and probably in like things that you've learned in your spiritual path, has no connection to our biology.
Yes.
Yeah. Because spiritually it's like yin and yang. We all have like a male and a female essence. So why restrict ourselves to, what our biology or what society is deeming appropriate for our biology anyway?
Exactly. Because like you always got to be aware of all, because we have 10 bodies,
10?
And, yes. Well, and our physical body is just one of these 10 bodies. So yeah, you have these hormones, going on in your physical body, but you also got to be aware of your other bodies and your energy bodies, your subtle bodies, because like things could be going on spiritually which could conflict with your physicality.
Yeah, with the physicality.
But, so it's like the meditation helps with that.
It's fascinating. And before, we cut our segment and move into our round table, and again, thank you so much for chatting with me about all of this. What would you say is your greatest inspiration for your art?
Well, I guess just what I said, my relationship with the divine, in everything, so I'm just like, my art is my expression of my relationship with God or the divine, and I express myself, sexually through that, but, it's just I don't know, just the relationship with God, which is just all around us, and it's like we can't be separate from that.
Right.
So it's my devotion.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to have a roundtable conversation with Jourdan and Pan, where we're going to delve. Hello, and welcome back yet again to Nadya's Identity Files. Now I have both of my awesome guests with me, Pan and Jourdan. Yay! Thank you all for being here so much. We were just talking about the lack of people watching outside, as you know, and watching
a little cold.
Previous episodes. It's not that cold. Aren't you from Minnesota?
I know, that's why I'm like,
right?
cold. It's cold.
Right, yeah, that's the reason why people are like staying in. Everyone's been in their beanies and they're bundling up super tight. And I'm like, it's not that cold, y'all.
It's not.
You will be okay.
Right.
So I want to continue the conversation some more on pansexuality. I remember when I was coming back from the bathroom, I heard you both talking about like dating and the issues with that. So we can touch on that a little bit. But I was doing some research for today's segment, and granted, I have some familiarity with pansexuality, but in spite of being a member of the LGBTQI community, I feel like there's really not enough education on pansexuality. It's not really included.
True.
And even being bi, I often feel like there's the issue of like bi invisibility and
For
so
real.
on and so
It's
forth.
true.
Oh yeah.
I know about that.
I was doing research and I came across this article from Miley Cyrus. So Miley Cyrus apparently came out as pansexual in October, and she was explaining that I guess initially she was self-identifying as bi.
Yeah.
That she felt it was too restrictive,
Mm.
and that she never thought about someone being a boy or a girl, as we were all discussing. She was thinking about, the souls.
Right.
And we were talking about this, with each of you individually, but maybe we can expand on that in the context of like online dating.
Yeah, that's actually, it's funny you say this.
It's true.
Because this Miley Cyrus, her coming out as pansexual, that is the link that I sent to my mom and my grandparents.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, like back a couple months ago, and I was like, hey guys, I was like, I really relate with this. Like, I've never resonated with anyone else or any label. I've never resonated with labels, so this is the first label. I'm like, wow, this matches me more than the others.
Right.
And I sent that off and got no response, but but I'm still, there's still a lot of.
It makes you feel any better. When I wrote my article on bi invisibility, that did not get a very positive response initially either. So
and it's new. It's all new.
It's
stuff.
all
It's
stuff.
really
It's all new
new. And it's weird because, like, when I first started, like, identifying as pansexual, there was, like, no information out there, like, on it. Like, this was, like, during high school, like, the end of high school. And I'm like, well, there's got to be, like, a term for this, And, like, some of the times I was like, did I make this term up?
Yeah.
Like, there was a little bit of stuff out there,
Totally.
But, like, there's a lot of, like, misinformation, too. So I feel like it's our job as, like, people who identify as pansexual to, like, spread, like, true information about
true
it.
awareness in truth, and in love, and not in hatred or bigotry or anything that is all about the labels, the negative side of labels.
Right. Because people, I feel like, who aren't in it or don't identify as pansexual, who are like either polarity, like really masculine or really feminine, and just like I'm male or female, when they hear someone's pansexual, they view it only in like physical terms.
Yeah, right. You're just trying to get attention.
When it's a spiritual thing. Like, at least in my experience,
totally,
and it's like you try to explain it to them, and they're all stuck in the physical realm, like 3D, stuff. And
well, I think a lot of people also mistake pansexuality for polyamory.
Yes.
And
I was thinking about that, too.
Oh, you want to have sex with boys and girls? I'm like, no, that's not what this is about.
I think they go together, though, a lot of the time, because, like, I technically identify as polyamorous and pansexual, but, like, when it comes to It's because like I want it to be open and like have the option in case, you know, it's like, you know, I don't like restrictions in relationships, you know? So like if the person that I'm with wants to be with somebody else, you know, or like wants to bring somebody else into the relationship, like I'm open to that, you know what I mean? But it's all about like being open and
I'm on the opposite side of that spectrum. You know, my relationship right now, it's a closed relationship where, you know, it's just he and I together, but again, we're both so open, and he tries to understand, you know, the fact that I say I'm pansexual, and he's open to it. And
what was that conversation like when you first let him know that you identify?
When I first let him know, he was like, okay, that's cool. But again, you know, him coming from, he identifies as straight. So by him identifying as that, I think there is definitely just a missing piece there of understanding with the fact that, oh, is this even a real thing?
Right.
Yeah.
And he thinks like what's in your actual subconscious? What do you think about, like what turns you on?
Well, I can
like
relate
all
to that
types
so
of things.
much because even
Yeah.
you know, being bi, you know, when I was in a relationship with a male, you're straight. When you're in a relationship with a girl, you're gay.
Exactly.
You're
so
lesbian.
it's like I feel like I can. It's not even true. And I was like, I feel like I'm not understood sometimes. And you know, by my mom too. I was telling her about it, and she's like, well, why are you with a guy then if you're pansexual? I said, why would I not be?
Yeah.
Right.
Why would I not be? That's the point.
Yeah.
You know?
See, that's what I feel like a lot of people like assume that if you're pansexual, like you want to have sex with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, when it's just not the case, you know, because like if I am really attracted to someone and feel a really strong connection and they reflect me in all the aspects of like my pansexuality and my gender, then they have all the qualities that I need in a person. So I don't necessarily need anyone else in the relationship. So I don't necessarily need to have a polyamorous relationship, you know, but I like to keep it open in case it's usually like for the other person in the relationship, you know, because it's like if they can't get everything they need from me, I don't want to necessarily restrict them, you know, if they need something from somebody else.
That brings a whole nother concept about what is a relationship and what is love. What is love? And is there a difference between just love for a soul and sexual love? And where do those lines cross?
I think that a person can have emotional and romantic connection. It's not always necessarily sexual.
Right.
And then it's like, you know, you have to make that determination if that connection with the person is so strong in that realm, you know, would a person sacrifice the other to continue exploring that type of feeling?
Exactly.
It's just a lot of people, it's kind of like an all or nothing type of spectrum. You know, I'm always talking about binaries on this show and the danger of binary and the black and white thinking that pervades.
It's 50,000 shades of gray.
Right?
So, oh my gosh, it's like 500,000 shades of gray.
Yeah.
True, exactly.
Yes.
And I feel like we as like gender fluid people and pansexual, we exist within that gray area.
Yeah.
And we can fluctuate from either side throughout the whole spectrum of the gray.
Totally. And depending on the day and what I'm doing, I feel more feminine or more masculine. And it's a sliding scale. And and coming out like this, like it makes people uncomfortable.
It does.
Right.
It makes people around us really uncomfortable.
It's
and I
true.
feel like it's as long as we're doing this in like love and and honesty.
Do you find that it can be somewhat paradoxical in that you've found some freedom through a label in spite of, you know, you feeling labels are restrictive?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Completely, because I don't like labels at all.
Me
and I know you
either.
had Brad on your show too, and he is,
we had a really great conversation about that.
Yeah, we're the same person in that respect, because when you put a label on yourself, it gives another person the chance to judge you.
Right.
And that's just the human experience. That's just what we do. And I prefer no labels at all.
Right.
But that's why I was saying I found this label months back, and I was like, wow, I resonate with this more than the others.
Well, I
And
think
if you connect to somebody's soul and like their aura and just like their light body, and you just like see beyond the physical into like what their higher self and their energy looks like, then you just connect to that, and you still have that like physical like sexual attraction, like it's there because we have this physical body, but like it goes through. it goes
Yeah.
through to the light.
It's more than
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Life and love is transcendental,
Yes.
and
Yes.
we should not limit ourselves. You know,
Transcendental.
and it's fine to have a label if it gives us some sort of, I guess, a sense of clarity
Yeah.
for how we live our lives.
Yeah.
But it's important to know that that's not the end all be all of
Totally.
everything.
Totally.
And we
And
can
that doesn't
all, we
define
don't
us.
have to, you know, feel like we have to keep ourselves within that envelope. We
Exactly.
can always
Totally.
move and
We
switch.
can always
and
change.
Who
And-
cares? It's our
Yeah.
lives.
And that's the thing about being
Exactly.
fluid,
Own it.
you know? Just
Yes.
you go with the flow of it, you know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you both
Thank you.
so much for
course.
being here and having this
course.
conversation and educating me even more about pansexuality and your process and your